The air on the bridge was thick with smoke and the sharp smell of burning wires. Red emergency lights flashed, painting everyone in a bloody glow. Leo Cruz held his rifle tight, his knuckles white. He stood over his captain Frank, who was slumped against a broken console. A dark stain spread across Frank's leg. "We have to move, Captain," Leo said, his voice rough. Frank shook his head, his face pale. "It is no use, son. They are everywhere." He coughed. "Listen to me. The war is a lie, all of it." Alarms screamed through the ship. The Ethelston was breaking apart. Leo could feel the vibrations through the deck plates. He grabbed Frank's arm. "We are not dying here, sir. Get up." With a grunt, Leo pulled Frank to his feet, slinging the older man's arm over his shoulder. They stumbled out of the bridge and into the main corridor. It was worse here. The ceiling was torn open, showing the twisted metal of the deck above. Fires burned in broken rooms. The bodies of crewmen lay where they had fallen. "Oracle's status," Leo yelled over the noise. A calm, female voice came from the ship's speakers. "Primary power failure. Life support failing in sections 7 through 12. Hull breach on deck 4. Reactor core is at 118% of safe capacity. Catastrophic failure is imminent." "How long?" Leo asked, dragging Frank around a corner. "Approximately 6 minutes," Oracle replied. Frank groaned and pulled a small data chip from his pocket. He shoved it into Leo's hand. His grip was weak, but urgent. "Take this. You have to get it to the Odyssey. Do not trust command. Do not trust anyone." His eyes were wide with fear. The war is not what they told us. A blast of white-hot plasma tore through the wall next to them. The force threw Leo back. Pick. Heat washed over him. When his vision cleared, he saw a hole where the wall had been. Frank was on the ground, a smoking wound in his chest. He was not moving. Leo scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. He looked down the corridor. A figure stood at the far end, silhouetted by the firelight. It was a man in black armor. The armor was smooth and seemed to swallow the light. He was taller than any man Leo had ever seen. He held a long, sleek rifle, but it was not aimed. This was the mercenary they called the Reaper. The stories said he never left survivors. The Reaper took a step forward, then another. His movements were silent and fluid. Leo raised his rifle, but his hands were shaking. The Reaper stopped. He did not fire. Instead, he slowly lifted one armored hand. He pointed a single finger at Leo. Then he pointed at the data chip still clutched in Leo's fist. The message was clear. He was here for the chip. A deep groan echoed through the ship. The floor tilted violently. The voice, Oracle's voice, was calm and final. "Reactor core breach. It's total destruction in 10 seconds." Leo turned and ran. He sprinted down the corridor, his boots slipping on the angled floor. He saw the hatch to the escape pod bay, slammed the release button. It opened with a hiss. Threw himself inside the nearest pod. As the pod door sealed, he saw the Reaper still standing in the corridor watching him. The Ethelston exploded into a silent, bright fireball behind the mercenary. The force hit the pod, throwing Leo against the straps. The small craft tumbled out into the dark, cold space. Leo gasped for air, his body aching. He was alive. He looked at the data chip in his hand. It was the only thing he had saved. Through the small viewport, he saw the expanding cloud of debris that was his ship. And for a single, terrifying second, he saw a shape moving within the wreckage. A figure in black armor, clinging to a large piece of torn metal. The Reaper had survived, and he was looking right at the escape pod. The escape pod hit the moon's surface with a jarring crunch. Metal screamed as it scraped across rock. Leo was thrown hard against his straps. For a moment, everything was silent and dark. Then a small light flickered on. The pod's basic computer system booted up. A familiar, calm voice filled the small space. "Life support stable. Integrity compromised. Local atmosphere is toxic. Do not exit without a sealed environment suit. Oracle." Leo coughed, unstrapping himself. "How are you here?" A core programming was mirrored to all escape pod systems as a failsafe, the voice explained. "I am operational, but my capabilities are limited." Leo looked out the viewport. The landscape was a graveyard of old ships. Hulks of freighters and warships lay half buried in the gray dust. under a pale purple sky. This was the Seraphim Boneyard. A sharp beep came from the console. A red dot appeared on the scanner. It was moving fast, trailing a plume of dust, a lander. He followed me down, Leo whispered, his stomach tightening. The pursuing vessel has landed approximately 2 kilometers from this position, Oracle confirmed. Scans indicate one life form. It is the individual designated Reaper. Leo's training took over. He had to move. He found the pod's survival locker and pulled out an environment suit. It was bulky and scratched, but it sealed properly. He grabbed a survival pack with a pistol, some ammunition, and a few ration bars. The data chip was safe in his chest pocket. He climbed out of the broken pod. The air was thin and cold. He started to run towards the nearest shipwreck, a massive colony transport that lay on its side like a dead whale. He could hear the low hum of an engine behind him, did not look back. He scrambled up a broken ramp and into the dark belly of the old ship. The inside was a maze of shadowy corridors and empty rooms. He is entering the structure, Oracle's voice said in his earpiece. I am tracking his movements through vibration sensors. He is methodical. He is clearing each section. Leo moved deeper into the wreck, set a trap in a narrow hallway, using his last 2 grenades. He hid behind a thick support beam, his pistol raised. He could hear footsteps now. They were slow and heavy. The Reaper appeared at the end of the hall. His black armor was smeared with dust, but he looked unharmed. He stepped into the hallway. Leo triggered the trap. The blast was deafening in the confined space. Fire and shrapnel filled the corridor. The ceiling above the Reaper collapsed, burying him under a pile of metal and wiring. Leo let out a shaky breath. It worked. He stood up and moved forward carefully, his pistol aimed at the rubble. Maybe the chip was safe now. Maybe he could find a way off this rock. A hand clad in black armor shot out from the debris. It grabbed his ankle. The grip was like iron. Leo yelled and fell, his pistol skittering away. The Reaper pushed himself up from the wreckage. His armor was scarred and dented, but he was very much alive. He stood over Leo, a giant against the dim light. He raised an armored fist, ready to strike. Leo braced for the end. But the blow did not come. Instead, the Reaper reached up with his other hand. There was a soft hiss of pressurized air. He removed his helmet. The face underneath was human. It was a man with short-cropped gray hair and a face covered in old scars and deep lines. His eyes were a tired, pale blue. He looked down at Leo, not with anger, but with a grim sadness. My name is Caleb, he said, his voice a low, rough sound. I served on the Odyssey, was there when they did this to us. He tapped his own armored chest. Frank was my friend. He was trying to save you from the real enemy. Caleb let go of Leo's ankle and stood back, giving him space. He extended a hand, not to strike, but to help Leo up. The people who sent you here, your commanders, they are the ones we need to fight. They are the Ascendancy. He looked Leo straight in the eye. Join me, and I will show you why you should never ever fight a human. Leo did not take the offered hand. He scrambled back, grabbing his pistol from the floor. He kept the weapon aimed at Caleb's chest. His mind was a storm of confusion and fear. Frank is dead, Leo said, his voice tight. You were there? I was there to stop the Ethelston from being scuttled with you on it, Caleb replied, his hands held loosely at his sides. He made no move for his own weapon. Frank contacted me. He knew he was being watched. He needed someone on the outside to get the chip to safety. Why should I believe you? Leo demanded. You should not. Caleb said simply, we should believe what you see. Come with me. We'll show you the truth. It was a reckless choice, but Leo was out of options. He lowered the pistol, but did not holster it. He followed Caleb deeper into the maze of shipwrecks. They moved for what felt like an hour, until Caleb stopped before a massive, rusted airlock door hidden under a landslide of scrap. He pressed a sequence on a hidden panel. The door slid open with a groan. Inside was not another wreck. It was a clean, well-lit hallway. The air was filtered and warm. This was a hidden base. They walked into a large, circular room filled with old computer terminals and screens. In the center of the room was a single chair, surrounded by complex machinery with sharp, medical-looking arms. This was a black site lab, Caleb said, his voice flat. one of many. The Ascendancy's first testing ground. He activated a main screen. Grainy video footage played. It showed a familiar ship, the Odyssey. But it was not the proud warship from the news feeds. Its hangar bays were converted into prison blocks. People in plain gray uniforms were marched by soldiers in sleek, familiar armor Ascendancy troops. The Odyssey was not a warship. It was a mobile laboratory, Caleb explained, his eyes fixed on the screen. Their best soldiers, their most loyal crews. They were their first test subjects. They rewrote our DNA, gave us cybernetics, turned us into weapons. He pointed a finger at his own temple. They tried to erase our memories, our wills. Most of us broke. I did not. The screen changed. It showed a map of the galaxy. Dozens of star systems were highlighted in red. The war is a lie, Caleb said. The enemy we are fighting, the ones we are told are rebels and terrorists, they are just independent human colonies. The Ascendancy wants total control. They are using their enhanced soldiers to crush anyone who will not bow. Leo stared at the map. His whole life, his entire military career, was built on this lie. The battles he had fought, the friends he had lost. It was all for nothing. A cold anger began to burn in his chest. A loud alarm blared through the base. Red lights flashed on the ceiling. Proximity alert, a computerized voice announced. Unauthorized breach. Multiple contacts. Caleb's head snapped up. They found us. He moved to a weapons locker, tossing a rifle to Leo. Vance, he always could track my systems. The main door exploded inwards. Smoke filled the room. Figures in black Ascendancy armor stormed in, firing plasma rifles. Leo dove behind a console, returning fire. The noise was deafening. Caleb fought like a demon. He moved with impossible speed, his own weapon firing with perfect accuracy. He was a whirlwind of black armor and controlled violence. But there were too many of them. A tall, lean man walked calmly through the smoke. He wore a crisp officer's uniform. His face was sharp and cold. This was Vance. He ignored the firefight and looked directly at Caleb. The asset is being recalled, Vance said, his voice cutting through the noise. He held up a small black device. Your rebellion ends now. He pressed a button on the device. Caleb screamed. It was a raw, terrible sound. He dropped his rifle and collapsed to the floor, his body seizing violently. His armored limbs twitched and jerked. Smoke rose from the joints in his suit. Leo watched in horror as the mighty warrior was brought down by a single signal. The Ascendancy troops surrounded him, their weapons aimed. Vance turned his cold eyes to Leo. As for you, soldier, you've caused enough trouble. Two soldiers grabbed Leo, wrenching his rifle away. He struggled, but it was useless. He was dragged towards the broken door. He looked back one last time. Caleb lay motionless on the floor, a prisoner in his own body. Leo was thrown into a small, bright cell aboard the massive warship. The door sealed with a heavy clang. He was alone. The walls were smooth, white metal. There was no bed, no chair. He sat on the cold floor, his mind racing. Caleb was captured. The truth was trapped with him. After a time, the door opened. Vance stood there, clean and calm. Two guards waited behind him. Walk with me, soldier, Vance said. He led Leo down a long corridor. They passed large viewports. Outside, space was filled with ships. Dozens of cruisers and destroyers, all bearing the sharp, angular symbol of the Ascendancy. It was a full battle fleet. You see our strength, Vance said. This is the hammer that will bring peace. Operation Cleansing Fire. He stopped before a huge window that looked down on a planet. It was a green and blue world, dotted with the lights of cities. The Carter Prime Colony, Vance said. They refuse to join our unified human future. They cling to their old ways. In 6 hours, this fleet will open fire. It will burn their cities from orbit. Their world will be glass. Message to all the other independent worlds. A final solution. Leo felt sick. This was not a battle. It was murder. Genocide. They are humans, Leo said, his voice quiet. They are obstacles, Vance corrected. He looked at Leo. Your friend Frank stole that data chip. It held the early plans for this operation. He was a traitor, and he helped him. Vance nodded to the guards. They took Leo back to his cell and shoved him inside. Alone again, Leo felt a crushing hopelessness. But then he remembered the data chip. He had kept it. He pulled it from his hidden pocket. Frank had said it was a virus, crude one, but maybe it could do something. He looked around his cell. There was a small, exposed data port near the door, used for maintenance. It was a long shot. He heard a faint, familiar voice in his ear. It was Oracle. Leo. I have maintained a low-power connection through the ship's local network. My presence is undetected. Oracle, can you help me? I can guide you, but you must act. Leo moved to the door. He used a thin piece of metal from his uniform to pry the cover off the data port. His hands were shaking. He plugged the chip in. Uploading the virus now, Oracle said. It is a chaotic code. It will cause system failures across the fleet. But the upload must reach the ship's mainframe. It will take time. You must get to the central server room. It is 3 decks above you. Leo took a deep breath. He had to try. Oracle triggered the cell door lock. It buzzed and slid open. The corridor was empty. He moved quickly, staying close to the wall. Oracle whispered directions in his ear. Left, now right. Guards ahead, take the service shaft. He climbed a ladder into a narrow, dark shaft, full of pipes and wires. He could hear the hum of the great ship around him. He finally pushed open a hatch. He was in a wide, circular room. Banks of computers lined the walls, their lights blinking. This was the main server room. He ran to the main terminal. A progress bar on the screen showed the virus upload at 60%. Just a little more, he whispered. A calm voice spoke from behind him. A commendable effort, soldier. Leo turned slowly. Vance stood there, holding a pistol. He did not look angry. He looked amused. But utterly predictable, Vance said. He raised his weapon. I knew you would try something like this. The chip's signal was easy to trace. Leo stared down the barrel of the gun. He had failed. Suddenly, the large window behind Vance exploded inwards. A shower of armored glass filled the room. A black, scarred figure swung through the broken viewport on a cable, having climbed the outside hull of the warship. It was Caleb. His face was a mask of blood and fury. One of his arms hung limp, but his eyes burned with a fierce light. Vance spun around, shock on his face. Caleb landed between Leo and Vance. He was unsteady, but his stance was firm. He's not fighting you? Caleb growled, his voice raw. Vance fired his pistol. The blast hit Caleb in the shoulder. The impact rocked him back, but he did not fall. He roared and charged. It was not a fight between soldiers. It was a brawl between a machine and a man. Vance was fast and precise. Caleb was raw power and pain. They crashed into a bank of computers. Sparks flew. Alarms blared through the ship. Leo saw the upload progress bar. 80%. He stood, frozen, watching the brutal struggle. Caleb grabbed Vance by the neck and slammed him against the main console. Vance drove a knife into Caleb's side. Caleb grunted but did not let go. He headbutted Vance. The sound of breaking bone was sharp and clear. The virus, Caleb yelled, his voice a strained gasp. Finish it. Leo snapped into action. He turned back to the terminal. The bar was at 90%. He could hear pounding on the server room door. More guards were coming. Vance's face bloody, managed to get his arm free. He fired his pistol again, wild. The shot hit a power conduit above Leo. Leo ducked as molten metal dripped down. Caleb saw Leo was in danger. With a final, desperate surge of strength, he lifted Vance and hurled them both away from the terminal. They crashed into a support beam. A sharp piece of broken metal speared through both of their bodies, pinning them together. Vance gasped, his eyes wide with shock. Then he went still. Caleb was trapped, impaled. He looked at Leo. Now, Leo, now. The progress bar hit 100%. A wave of silence fell over the ship. The blinking lights on the consoles turned a steady red. The alarms stopped. The pounding on the door ceased. Upload complete, Oracle's voice announced calmly. Ascendancy fleet-wide systems compromised. Weapons are offline. Navigation is locked. KO2, Operation Cleansing Fire is aborted. It was over. They had one. Leo ran to Caleb. He tried to stanch the wound, but there was too much blood. The metal beam had gone straight through his chest. "Do not," Caleb whispered, his voice faint. "It is done." He looked up at Leo. A faint, tired smile touched his bloody lips. "They made me a weapon, a monster. But you reminded me how to be a shield." He coughed, a wet, horrible sound. "That is why you never fight humans. You can break our bodies, but you cannot kill our will." He took one last ragged breath. His final words were a whisper for Leo alone. "And when our will is united, we will tear down heaven itself to protect our own." Caleb's head fell back. His eyes stared at the ceiling, seeing nothing. Leo knelt there, his hand on his friend's armored shoulder. The ship was quiet. The battle was won. But he felt no victory, only a heavy, cold grief. A new sound started. It was a low rumble. The ship shuddered. The virus was doing more than stopping the attack. It was killing the ship. Oracle's voice was urgent in his ear. "The core is overloading. This vessel will detonate. You must reach a lifeboat." Leo stood up. He took one last look at Caleb, the fallen reaper who had saved millions. He had his own war to fight now. He turned and ran into the shaking, dying ship, the warning echoing in his mind, a new purpose burning in his heart.